morning and welcome to this morning's CXO conference produced by Inspired. Hope you are all well. So my name is Grace Baldwin and I am the conference director for Inspired Business Media, who would like to say on behalf of all the organisers and supporting sponsors a big thank you for showing your support in today and participating in the business meetings and learning initiatives we have. So today is about solving your latest business challenges by hearing some insightful presentations, and they are led by our industry leading speakers, whilst the networking meetings give everyone a chance to engage with solution providers that can offer support for your daily business challenges. So by now you should have already received your personalised agenda. You will also see that on this side we have 3 workshop rooms, and that's on the back of your agenda, you can see. Now, each room is allocated for CIO, CISO, and CMO. So please make sure you stick to the timings and enter the relevant workshop rooms for your agendas to make sure that the day runs smoothly for yourself, okay? Now, before I introduce our opening moderator for today, I'd just like to mention that you can follow and tweet for the day at InspiredBmedia. Okay, now also we have a Wi-Fi password for today, and that is all lowercase meetings. Now, myself and the events team can answer any questions during the day that you may need, and that will be located at the registration desk when you first walked in within the building. Now, you should have all received your meetings itinerary and brochures. So can you just ensure that you intend all your introductory meetings allocated so the day can run as smoothly as possible. Also, just a reminder to check your online portal because you will have updates on that as well. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, I've got the pleasure to introduce our moderator, who is the CIO of the State of Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity. So he oversees the IT operations of an agency that disperses billions of dollars in grants to spur growth in business and to improve the lives of residents across the state. Now, as a thought leader, he spearheads major strategic shifts from focus on agency-specific solutions to enable a statewide digital transformation policy. Now, he works closely with business leaders to develop strategies that break down data and that leverage digital data from multiple sources using BI, AI, machine learning, and deep learning tools. So please, can we just all make a warm welcome for Emmanuel Ardala, please. So without much further ado, I'd just like to hand the floor to Emmanuel. Thank you.
Thank you, Grace. It's funny, sometimes it's difficult to recognize yourself after an introduction like that. So today's panel is really about collaboration, innovation, and educating the enterprise. I'm going to briefly read the synopsis. Communication and collaboration are vital to help get the best out of employees' abilities and what is required by today's digital landscape to grow and innovate effectively. As consumer engagement continues to be the barometer for success, the CIO and CMO relationship seems to be the spearhead of innovation and change. So long-standing relationship between CISOs and board members remain a necessity to be nurtured, as does education on the changing threat landscape that goes hand in hand with innovation. This panel discussion will discuss the perspective that CIOs, CISOs, and CMOs must simultaneously innovate, collaborate, and educate if they're to remain competitive in the era of change. So to get things started, please help me welcome our distinguished panelists, starting with Frank Chacon. Frank. Lee Correa. Sandeep Navar.
I got it.
All right. Sorry about that. James Gregson. All right. A warm welcome for our distinguished panelists, please. All right, this is going to need to be lively, so you guys have to interact. I encourage you to applaud whenever you don't like some answer that somebody gives. Keep it to yourself. All right. The first question for Frank Chacon.
Should we do a quick introduction?
No. As a start, as I ask you questions, please introduce yourself, explain what company you belong to or organization, and your title. All right? All right. So the first question for Frank Chacon. If you could suggest ways to improve the relationship between how CIOs and CMOs could work together to achieve better outcomes, name and explain two such ways.
Reason for the introduction is to give you context of who I am. Reason for the introduction is to give you context of who I am and some of our questions that we're answering here. Is that on?
Can you hear?
Yeah, that's fine. So Frank Chacon, I run what we call our advanced communications practice. It essentially is a group of consultants that help our customers with areas around collaboration and customer experience. So we bring products and services to market that allow us. Thank you. We're a team here. We take care of each other.
Good friends.
We just met 30 seconds ago. Yeah. So we help customers in that regard. So I guess it's an interesting opportunity for us to give you some sense of some things that we're seeing with customers. So the question around CIOs and CMOs and how they can collaborate better. The one word you said in that question, Emil, I think which is important, is outcomes, right? So we're finding that. Again, it's a buzzword that's now come into the market quite a bit over the last few years, but it's important, and when you define an outcome, I'm talking about an outcome that's impactful to the business, right? So an outcome is not 5 nines of SLA, it's not a, uptime on a router, which technology people, of which I'm an engineer by degree, tend to focus on, right? And by the way, the industry tends to focus on products and services, right? So that's not a business outcome. An outcome, again, not being obvious, but are things like customer service, increasing SAT, inventory turns, things like that. Now, making those links between IT and the CIO, between the CIO and CMO are super important. So one of the things we've done in the way we engage with our customers, with our collaboration tools and our customer experience tools, is looking for ways to create that bridge and helping customers along that journey. So the first thing is defining that outcome, right, and making that connection. The second piece is creating KPIs along the journey that ensure that and putting listening posts in place to ensure that you're meeting those outcomes or working towards that piece of it. But the last piece, which I think is super important, is outcome validation, is going back and defining, looking at those definitions around what that outcome is and have you met it, because most IT projects woefully miss their targets. It's not uncommon. Everyone knows you run over budget and things like that. But if you're defining that outcome on the front end and helping customers measure it on the back end, it's important. Now, for us, when we go to market, we've actually changed our go-to-market strategy to try to facilitate that. What we've done early with our consultants is help customers do that. And on the back end, since most of the services we deliver today are cloud-enabled, consumption-based oriented, there's a self-reliance in us to ensure that you're achieving your outcomes because you won't be using the service, and it's easy to switch. So what we've done in many of our projects is we deploy adoption specialists, customer success managers to help you with that journey, define the outcome, create the KPIs, and validate the business outcome. So that's one way that we're going about it.
Outstanding. So Sandeep, you're the CIO at Saint-Gobain. So you heard Frank's answer there. How do you collaborate with sales and marketing? Frank comes from a sales background, you from a CIO type of a background. How do you collaborate with the marketing group to ensure that they have the right tools and systems to spur growth?
Good morning, everybody. Can you guys hear me okay in the back? Loud and clear? I know. Thanks, Mike. Glad to be in Big Apple. Love coming to New York City. Glad to be here. Thanks, Grace, for inviting me. In terms of my quick introduction, I'm a in-transition CIO very recently from Saint-Gobain, a French company, 40 billion euro, 200,000 plus employee, and 353-year-old, older than the United States of America. That's how they introduced the French people. But anyway, I'm very passionate about the CIO conference. I've been part of many of those. And today I'm here to really talk about the collaboration. So I think I'm going to give a little bit of different perspective as a CIO. These days, I think the digital is kind of abused word in my view, because CMO think that he or she should own it. Chief Digital Officer think that he or she should own it. CIO think he should own it because it's IT technology, right? Then you have another new species coming called Chief Data Officer and Chief Technology Officer and Chief Information Security Officer. So there are lots of those are claiming to own the territory of digital. So I think in order to first, as a collaboration, take the hurdle out of your way, okay? Let's get everybody aligned to what the periphery we're working in and what is everybody's role. Because if that is not clearly defined from the get-go, I can tell you, you could be a $1 trillion Amazon or you could be $1 million startup company. You're going to run into lots of inefficiencies, right? So with the definition of collaboration for me, how do I interact with my CMOs, even in Saint-Gobain or in the past, I worked for Johnson & Johnson, $80 billion company. It is important that you have a vision. You said it very well. If there is no common purpose as a business case, business benefit, no CMO is going to talk to you or no CIO is going to talk to CMO. The second part is also, in a candid way, the CMO should be careful, not try to become a digitally technology expert, but rather think about how the digital technology can be used in order to grow the market portfolio. If that is clear vision and objective, I think in terms of that clarity as a collaboration becomes easy conversation. But if your CMO think that CIO should report into him or her, then very soon you will be having all kinds of challenges. And the second part of the collaboration, the way I have always guided my marketing team is, it's not always about the glossy things that looks glittery when you are sitting next to somebody in the aeroplane. You need to come back and look at the reality. Who's the consumer of the digital technology, right? If I'm going to be in a construction product company, which we are, I'm not going to give them something called drone, and what are you going to do with the drone, right? So you need to think from the customer's customer perspective, not even your direct customer, but who's buying from your customer and what they're looking for. And I think that clarity needs to come in innovation. And if you can talk to CMO and CIO, I think it's a very easy conversation. So I think in a summary, business case collaboration or understanding of the common purpose, business goal alignment, and really have that clear roles and responsibility from the get-go would help make a better collaboration.
So Frank, Sandeep said CMOs like to own data or the digital space. What do you think of that?
CMOs owning data. Well, I mean, when you think about what's going on in the market, why do I not have wood for me? You want to hold it for me? When you think about what's going on in the marketplace, I don't think anyone physically owns the data, right? It's extremely important, though. When you look at the businesses that are being built in the market today, it's a data-driven business, right? So there's data being collected in lots of different places. The challenge isn't so much, in many ways, I kind of feel like there's data overflow, right? So combing through that data, trying to figure out how to best utilize it, I think is everybody's job. But there's lots of tools that you need to put in place. So I think there needs to be a collaborative effort, because if you don't cull through that data, you're just going to get completely overwhelmed with the data.
So, okay, great. Thanks, Frank. My next question is to James. And James, once you introduce yourself, James comes with the social media background. I'll let you introduce yourself a little bit more, but Sandeep did not include that as one of the different branches that he mentioned. But social media plays a key role in business today, obviously, and at the Lego Group, they've obviously embraced this type of communication medium. Managing the message, which can change on a dime, and strengthening the company brand can be challenging. What tools do you rely on, and how do you accomplish those tasks?
Sure. Hi guys, I'm James Gregson. So I am a senior global manager within the social media marketing team at Lego. So we are a team of about 50 people across the globe, obviously working with a lot of the social media platforms, but we very closely collaborate across various data teams. To your guys' point, data is managed at Lego by about, I'd say, 5 or 6 different teams at a global level, which gets both complicated and valuable at the same sense, because people have a very different sort of perspective on the value of data and how to use data. But for us, when we look at sort of collaboration and we look at sort of managing conversations and looking at data across so many different and then sometimes very disparate digital platforms, whether it be social media platforms, whether it be owned digital platforms like apps or community platforms, we work sort of very closely with whether it's our IT and architecture teams who are responsible for developing these tools, as well as our customer service team. So our customer service team is on the front lines of managing that sort of customer message and interacting with those customers across a clearly wide variety of topics, from missing pieces in your set to a damaged box to someone very unhappy with a product that we've put on shelves to an issue with our website or a problem with an order. And a lot of those conversations come in, the majority of those conversations come in through social media and through Twitter and through Facebook. And even with a large team like ours of 40 people, we don't have the bandwidth to manage that conversation at a 24/7 basis. As we all know, social media is a 24/7 sort of operation, and it usually is most active not during business hours when people aren't at their desks. So we work very closely with consumer services who have their own CRM tools to sort of manage a lot of those messaging. So we have trainings with them. We share sort of tone of voice guidelines and sort of how they can make sure that they're engaging and interacting with fans in the right way, because there is sort of a unique way of doing that.
Awesome. CISO. So we have one representing the CISO side of things.
Hello.
And Les, you have a really unique type of a role. So there are obvious benefits of innovation, but innovation also brings a lot of security risks, right? And how do you, for instance, help Sandeep here, or Frank, or James? How do you interact with them, and how do you help them understand the importance of security?
Let me introduce myself. Can you hear me? I guess you can. I'm a director, architecture, engineering, and ops for risk and security at Estee Lauder. We are actually about 35 different brands at the very least, and many more across 80 different countries, and about, I'd say, 40,000 employees, and then you have the transient, which is 80, 90,000 as such. I've been at Estee Lauder for about 11 years now, and I've worked in the industry for a long time. So to answer, I used to be a makeup artist, by the way, therefore I got it. No, I'm kidding. To address some of the issues that we're having, it's very fluid. Everyone's talking digital, as you mentioned before, as my colleagues mentioned before. And it's so fluid, and the different directions. We have areas in Asia that are very different from Europe, as well as North America and South America as such. And people try to move towards the digital, and everyone seems to be moving towards the cloud. So one of the strategies, it's not yet cast in stone yet, but the strategies has been a trust but verify, almost such as to address, as against just building prevention, we go in towards any breach detection and containment. So to do that, the approach I would do is we try to embed ourselves in any new innovation, if you will. But it's not always possible because we are spread all across. And sometimes things happen, and we somehow come back to try to figure it out. So ours is more of our group is predominantly engineering, and we validate things and we're stretched. So what we tend to do is focus on the breach management, planning, and containment. But to do that, you need to classify, which we are still building. You need to do a proper business impact analysis to understand what's the real meat that we need to protect. And we've also got this whole privacy stuff, GDPR and all the privacy issues and other compliance needs. Compliance is actually now an easy thing because most companies in the past went by compliance. If you're compliant, it means you're okay. It's really not okay. So we're classifying, we're mapping, and we zone stuff around. If I'm losing you in terms of the technical, we try to break off what's important and separate that and as such. Now, to address a question such as any of you coming in asking a question, if you're not engaged earlier, it's obviously more difficult to manage risks. But all the same, you try to gather the requirements, not speaking in business terms, obviously, say, I want to do this. You're collecting information on users, on your clients, if you will. Where is that data being moved? And so on. You need to know that because you might think it's an easy thing to do, but if it's being transferred outside the country, there are different laws, and we could be penalized for that. And we don't necessarily look. I think our driver is mainly be a public, so it's just not us. It's the company by itself, our brands, and so on. So that's how we try to engage.
So do your counterparts in IT or driving technology and your counterparts in marketing, how do you get them to understand the importance of security?
So what we've done as a company is we have business relationship managers. We've changed the names. They call it strategic and all that stuff. But basically, they are the interface within us and the business in general. Because sometimes some of us might get too technical. Our role should be really, I think most of IT should be almost a business advisor. One has to understand the business and then translate that technically behind the scenes. But we have business relationship managers, but not all things are collected equal. It depends on who's managing that, because sometimes the business just wants to do things like large transfers of data across. From a technical perspective, you have to see whether you've got the infrastructure, you're protecting things in the right places and all that stuff. But we try to manage as such. Sure. So we have these relationship managers. And other IT, sorry, one more quick question. As a company, we are trying to bring we've got IT groups all around the world, including even in New York, we've got different offices. So we had about 100 groups. We've just consolidated in Long Island City right now, but we've made it totally open. And it could well be that our roles might change over time. So we try to, cross-train, if you will. So all those other folks, like our separate architecture group, our separate, desktop engineering folks and all that stuff, we'll stop mixing. It's one open space where we have different things. Very.
Mm-hmm. And so, Sandeep, do you obviously have security. You're in charge of implementation of new innovations and technology. Do you, for instance, what Les was saying, how do you interact with the information security counterpart? And do you find that as a competing effort, or how do you implement technology and find the right balance?
So I think in terms of the alignment between a CISO organization, fortunately CISO used to report into me, so it made it easier. But I'll give you a quick example, and this is a public information, so you can Google on us. So many of you know NotPetya virus attack last year, right? So we're one of those who were impacted by that. As a result of that, when people, it's like an insurance, right? If you have one, you feel there's no value. But if you don't have one, you feel there's tremendous impact on you, right? Somebody hit you in New York City and you have to pay millions of dollars, thousands of dollars for your deductible. But when we went through this attack in last year, we literally had shutdown of many manufacturing locations, our operations and things like that. So you have this flight and a fight mode, right? And I think as a good guiding principle, especially alignment with the CISO, you must make sure that insurance policy you must buy and keep your systems, your assets, your infrastructure up to date. Now, I won't say that, you will not have cyber attack. It happens every day, every second, microsecond. But in terms of keeping up with the latest and the greatest, it is important that CISO should be part of what I call executive management team of the information CIO organization. And there should be a dedicated conversation on a regular basis for CISO to present what are the vulnerability you have in your infrastructure and have kind of conversation with the consumer of the information. Example will be chief digital officer or chief marketing officer.
So speaking of accountability, so from a marketing perspective, Frank, I'm going to come to you again. So in today's business world, the CIO and CMO need to work together to develop and execute on a sound marketing strategy. At Verizon, how do you strike in, that accountability, and who's more accountable to getting that type of a strategy going?
There's a funny saying out there. They say, who do you think's the smartest person in the room? And the answer generally is the room, right? So if you get people to work together, you can get the best result, right? And that's the whole purpose of collaboration. So, but how do you get people to work together? We've talked a lot about purpose, which I think was excellent, and you'll hear me say culture over and over again, is you need alignment, right? So you need your groups, and at CIO, CMO, there's lots of other folks you need, IT, development. They all need to be aligned. So developing that common purpose, ensuring that everybody understands. There's a book out there called Drive, which is about motivation, and they talk about what gets people motivated. It's autonomy, mastery, and purpose, right? Autonomy is obvious. Mastery, people like to know what they do. But the third one, which I'll focus on for a second, is the purpose piece. So one of the things we try to do with our products when we roll them out, or our teams, is we'll create groups so that people understand that they're not operating in a silo, and that what they're doing, what the impact of their actions are to the actual end result. And we'll spend a lot of time doing that. And we've had a lot of results, a lot of importance there, or I should say impact. And again, I'll go back to the comment I made before about the consumption-based economy. With everything being, with you as consumers have an opportunity to really leverage services that are being built by service providers like us that allow you to move so quickly between different places and try different things and innovate quickly and deploy. We as providers need to make sure that we're delivering those outcomes, right? So we need everyone across the board, whether it's service delivery, product development, sales, to all be aligned to that. And the way you do that is with a sense of purpose. Now, when you look at culture, the things that culture can eat that, the old Drucker point about eat strategy for lunch, but what culture will do, it'll kill that, right? So in some cases, you'll find not invented here mentalities. You'll find lack of trust, where individuals within a team won't be trusting each other, so they'll hoard the information and not want to share all of that. So what we try to do, and when we engage with customers, the projects that we find that go the most successful are the ones that have a name behind it. So we did a massive collaboration project for a major airline, 60,000 seats, wanted to overhaul their entire collaboration platform to be able to communicate more effectively. They created a name for it. They got people all behind it. They explained to the organization from the top down what was important and why it was important for the organization to be more digital, to deploy video, and do all that kind of stuff. And it created that sense of common purpose. So I would employ all of you to, again, not just with us as a partner, but within your own internal teams to create that alignment and sense of purpose.
Outstanding. And how about you, James? You come again from the marketing side of things. Overseeing LEGO Group's social media presence globally is no trivial task, obviously. So you almost must have a leg on, pretty much on both sides, right? So from IT as well as marketing side of things to be successful. Can you describe how you'd interact with your counterparts in IT and other areas of marketing?
Yeah, certainly. So, social media marketing in the sort of grand spectrum of other marketing strategies and tactics is one of the most measurable sort of levers in the marketing world. But it's also one of the most complex in a lot of cases, and it's the newest, right? So there's a lot of question marks. There's a lot of people in the world of marketing that don't necessarily understand it, and understand that you can track both from the top of the funnel all the way down to the bottom of the funnel, user behavior from, as I said, from the beginning to the end of the funnel. So we work a lot with our global insights team that tracks data across competitors, as well as our sort of owned channels, as well as all the regional marketing teams, and as well as our creative agencies, right? To be able to make sure that we can prove the value of what we do, where we do it, and how we're doing it. Because in a lot of other marketing vehicles, as I said, you know, whether you're running a TV commercial, there's no concrete way to measure sales, right? So we spend a lot of time trying to prove our worth successfully about how we can successfully post, let's say, a product announcement on a Facebook page and track that from beginning to end, right? Whether it's driving traffic to a retailer, driving traffic to our owned channels, and driving conversion. And without that sort of user journey in that path, you know, I think our team wouldn't be able to grow to the size it has been and continue to, you know, invest in sort of this area. So it's a massively important part of what we do on a daily basis. And as I said, we work with so many different data teams across the organization, whether it's tracking sort of reach and awareness objectives all the way down to conversion.
Sure. Less social media, it presents a huge sort of a risk, right? So how do you manage that type of?
So we've got the thing behind the scene, right? Because you've spoken about interactions and it's collusion and it's data about people. So we need to address the issue with GDPR and where's that information being stored? It's the regular privacy stuff, depending on whether it's Germany or Russia, China, and so on and so. And China has a whole different thing where they monitor everything and stuff like that. So we are behind the scenes. That's why we try to engage sooner than later to get these requirements and educate. Awareness is a big thing. For some reason, it's underused as much. We almost use it as a thou shalt do this at some point in time. And we're trying to bring in the context-based awareness all across, because it's a cliche, like security, the two middle letters are UR, right? So try to get it to everybody around. And that's the only way you can do it. And that's the same thing with engaging a lot of people, and we're trying to bring a context-based awareness. I can talk about the technical stuff, but that's, you know, it just is more and more as such, okay? I hope I've answered the question.
Sure. So Sandeep, so do you have social media presence at Saint-Gobain?
Yes, we do.
And do you manage that yourself, or how do you interact with that wing of the marketing area?
Yeah, so I think in terms of as a CIO organization, we were very clear. The consumerization of the technology will be with the business, but the support of that will be with the IT. But when it comes to, because you know we can't separate now technology with segment those with the IT and non-IT. Everybody's talking about technology, so you have to be respectful how far and how long you take your partner into technology. The second part of that innovation, which I think I kind of like it, I'm not sure I'm 100% there, but I started seeing some good positive vibe. In the old days, the shadow IT was misused or kind of treated as a bad entity. You don't want to have a shadow IT because they're doing some goofy stuff. But I think more and more I see, because the intimacy working with the CMO organization and with the digital organization, it becomes easier kind of sell for them to adapt to the new technology. And then as an execution for the CIO organization, you don't have to sell because somebody has already done that sell for you. That's one positive about that. And I think the third thing I would say is also sometimes it's not always clear in terms of the what I call a digital customer journey. How do you evolve around that? And that's why I said earlier, who's your customer's customer is going to be a key. And if you tap into that identity of that customer's customer, I think the conversation for me has been very easier with my shadow IT, with my direct IT, or even shared service organization, in terms of should I download this software or should I buy this cloud platform for doing SEO or analytics and things like that. So,
do you have a governance process that kind of ensures that you follow certain processes and then bring in security and bring in other areas?
Absolutely. So as part of any typical project management phases of the project, as the discovery phase, what we call, could that be a digital media, could that be large ERP transformation program to buying analytics, Google Analytics, we do have a stakeholder from the business, what they call the 3-in-a-box, conventional therapy for the project management. But I think you can't just have 3-in-a-box. I think everybody's almost like in the new world of agile technology, 7 at the table. So where you have the security, you got the data, you got a digital guy, you got an information technology guy, and then more importantly, you have a project manager, right? We can't be keeping the project like 3 years, 5 years, like ERP transformation. So we need to have some of those Scrum Masters and the Agile coach. And on top of that, one of the things I would share, and this has been working very well for us in J&J, also in Saint-Gobain, is bringing business into IT, and then also putting IT people into business. And trust me, and I say this with lots of authenticity and credibility, it does work. If you try to be a IT guy going to the business, a guy or girl, you're going to get pushback saying, okay, go away. You're going to come with this expensive check, and you're going to ask me millions of dollars for appropriation requests. But when the business people sitting in IT understand what the value can be brought to the organization, and those same IT guys into the business can explain what the benefits of technology could be, I'm telling you, it's a great win-win situation. I've been very fortunate with that approach. So that's what I would recommend. It doesn't have to be a project specific. It doesn't have to be organizational alignment. It has to be day-to-day interaction as if you're one team and you're talking a common language with everybody all the time.
Great. Well, last question is for Frank. Frank, Sandeep touched a little bit on analytics and stuff. So what's the most important IT tool or system that helped you develop your current sales strategy?
Well, for us, it's pretty straightforward because we're a sales-driven, marketing-driven organization, so it would be our CRM tool that we use for that, as well as our collaboration tools. I think it's going to vary depending who you ask within the organization, but for us, Salesforce is key, right? So we've integrated it into everything that we do in the way we talk to our customers and engage and collect data. You've heard me talk about a few things: technology, culture. There's really, in our view, when we engage with customers, there are 3 key things. It's looking at, for projects to be successful, it's the technology's got to work, it's got to be scalable and all that. So it's the technology. I already kind of beat the culture thing to death, right? If it's not accepted, it's not going to work. The last one is process, right? So I'm going to use that as an example as to how we deploy Salesforce within our organization. We've embedded it in everything that we do. Right, so and I can remember back in the days when I was a sales rep and told that I need to enter my opportunities into at the time it was Siebel, and I said, well, am I doing it for me or am I doing it for the organization, right? Well, now the tools that we've deployed are ingrained in the process that we have in place, and the tools are actually assisting our individuals in their day-to-day work, whether it's generating quotes, straight through processing in order to generate orders. It's making our customer experience much more impactful. So that's one of them. And I have to say a second one. The other one that we use quite extensively is a common collaboration platform, which is, I think, germane to the conversation. We use it and we sell it, and that's something that we do every day. But you would be surprised at a company this size, until several years ago, we didn't have a single platform. Right? And when you think about the ability and the effectiveness of your organization to break down barriers and silos within your company, you need a single platform. In many cases, companies have developed islands of collaboration, a video platform here, a social platform there, some IM and presence. There could be 2 or 3 of them out there, right? So what we've done is we've settled on a single one. It happens to be Cisco's that we use. And by the way, it's also the one that we go to market with. So not only have we developed a collaboration platform that works across our organization, but it's also the one that we partner with. So we've developed an incredible level of deep collaboration with our partners that help us with the go-to-market model. So a little winded answer, but those 2 tools for us are key, Salesforce and again, the collaboration platform. But I would say that ingraining it in the business process is probably more important than the actual tool that you use.
Outstanding. So every panel discussion has sort of a storyline. And the story I got here, hopefully what you gathered here as well, is collaboration, communication, particularly among the multiple areas that each of these fine panelists have kind of represented here. Frank, you even talked about a common collaboration tool. Interesting tools also kind of help in helping some of that collaboration. So please, a round of applause for our distinguished panelists.